Meeple Talk! Hello everyone, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Adam.
And welcome to Meeple Talk. So this time we've got, well, of course, it's a new game every time. Spirits of the Rice Paddy. So this one, the publisher is Ape Games. It's a smaller game, 2 to 4 players, but it's a full-length game, so up to 90 minutes long. So we're going to pass it over to the side there. Generally the storyline behind the game is that we are all rice farmers. And so you have this nice little contained board. Each individual player has their own, and these represents your rice fields. Overall, what you're going to be doing is growing your paddies. You're going to build paddies of different sizes with your walls and gates. You also have at your disposal your little meeples. These represent your workers that you'll have to use right away at the beginning, but you also have your market, and so these will be your ability to hire more workers, buy more animals, to do certain things on your fields. So your fields, through the growing season, you're going to have a variety of different conditions. You're going to have the wet components, the floods where the water rushes in. You're going to have dry spells where the water escapes. And during those times, you're going to take advantage of those different conditions because you're going to need to do things like planting. You're going to need to clear out obstacles like rocks, pull out things like weeds and grubs and stuff like that. And plant, harvest, fertilize, all those things. So, and each task that you have to do can only be achieved in certain conditions. So you're going to have to plan out over the different, I guess it's one growing season, but over the different days and seasonal conditions, what you're going to do at each given time. And so when you grow, you're going to harvest, and that's where your victory conditions are going to be, because the more you grow, the bigger your actual paddy, the more money you're going to get, and that's what these are. Now, you're also going to use your money to actually expand on your farm as well, because you're going to probably, over the course of the game, want to invest in your fields by getting more workers, getting more livestock, and so you're going to have to use some of your coins for that, but in the end, whoever has the most wins.
Yes. Yeah, so just give you an idea how the game starts and how you progress through it. You'll start with some configuration of rocks in your field, and those rocks are annoying. You do have to remove them before you can do anything with your paddy.
Can't grow anything on rocks.
Yes, exactly. And you might get some additional resources. For example, some walls and gates that you can use to create more paddies, because you only start with one, and you can create, obviously, more. Your whole field can be a series of paddies at the end of the game. You might get some extra money and some livestock, and once you've set up all of your resources there, you toss that card. Everyone begins, and then you also get in 2 points during the game. You get a set of 3 spirit cards that are passed along to all of the players on just before round 1, and then between round 3 and 4, you'll get a set of more powerful spirit cards. And the spirit cards give you certain bonuses while you're playing. For example, this one's called Hardy Rice. Only pests after the first one in a paddy count when harvesting. So that means you might have 3 or 4 pests in your paddy, and when you harvest it, you might get almost no money for it because there's all those pests. So this card allows you to only count 1, so that means you'll get more money. You'll still lose a little bit of money. For example, if you have a 3 hex, you will normally get 5 coins. In that case, you would only get 3. But basically, these cards give all sorts of little bonuses.
They also affect your turn order, because it's not the same throughout the game.
Yeah, you'll notice that there's numbers on the top, and that determines whoever has the lowest number on all of their cards gets the water. When the water flows in, they get the water first. And the water that you get is determined by these rain cards. Ooh. So you'll flip 1 in each round, and basically, depending on the number of players, in this case, if there's 4 players, you'll get 8 water, and there will be a pest in everyone's field, which is very annoying. Yes, and sometimes there will be weeds and that sort of thing. So these cards will determine what happens on every particular round.
Yeah.
And then you'll go through these 9, there's a sequence of 9 steps that you'll take through each particular round. The most important one is the farm actions. In the farm actions, that's where you're doing the building walls for your paddy, removing weeds and pests, removing rocks, and you'll use your livestock to remove rocks, and the ducks on the other side to remove pests and that sort of thing. Your people are very important, your farmers that you have available to you to both plant and harvest your rice. And you have to do that at exactly the right time. If you don't harvest at the right time or you don't have people to harvest, you may lose the entire crop. So that's devastating in real life and in the game. Yeah. And then finally, after you've done all those farm actions, you can buy more farmers and more livestock from the market that you can use in subsequent turns. And there's a total of 7 turns. And at the end, whoever has the most coins wins.
Exactly.
So that's the basic idea of the game. We're not going to go into every single rule because that would take too long.
Exactly.
We're going to move on to opinions.
Well, general impressions first thing. So, I mean, for a Hex game, it's a nicely designed, player board because a lot of Hex games that you may have played with, other types, you have your hexes and you build the board as they expand. So this one, every player has their own, and it's a nice contained unit with the patties that you're going to build, with your market. It's all, and also your turn orders and whatnot. It's a nice contained unit. So that's really clean. It's a clean setup. Also, the meeples are also nicely made. So whether it's the actual farmers, you've got your little grubs and weeds, and also the nicely, very representational version of fertilizer. So
fertilizer looks exactly like that. A yellow cube.
Like a cube.
In real
exactly.
Life.
And the rocks are cool too. So, and I like that. So it's a nice visual game. Even with the water, I like the designs of the water. And as you kind of flood your area, it looks kind of cool. I like it. So it's like everything with their size and proportions works. The other thing I like too is also the scoring board. So when you look at the table of rewards, the one thing I really like about that is that the level of rewards versus your effort to build and also the growing conditions that you may face, it all makes sense. So so when you look at the scoreboard, the larger the patty size you have that you can grow from, in a way mimics the economies of scale that you have in different operations, and so you're going to get more rewards for that. That's good. That's your extra profit. Also, when it comes to the type and severity of pests or weeds, the infestations that you have in your fields, of course, it's going to affect crop quality. So that is going to decrease the yield that you're going to get. So this layout really makes sense. It works with the theme and it works with what you would normally think in an actual farming condition. So I think they did a really good job with that. So those are the things that I really like about this game.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I really like the way they designed the game. I like the art. I like the fact that they have grooves for your walls. So this is kind of like very groovy. Yes. So they glued 2 pieces of cardboard together to create these tracks, which it's very unique. I've never seen that before. So all of your farmers and all of your livestock go into their own spots. So that's nice too. And I like the general theme. I love the idea of just, growing and harvesting. So things I didn't like so much. The rules are very fiddly. I'm not sure how to express it, but there's so many different rules and exceptions to rules that I found that the rules really got in the way of the enjoyment of the game. I found that the user experience overall was that you spent so much time thinking about how different rules worked, and there's so many different things happening. Like there's 9 sequences, and the 6th in the sequence, the farm actions, is another 8 different things that you have to worry about, and every little action is important. If you miss a step, you'll lose a turn, or you'll waste a crop, and
you'll set back,
or you'll lose a lot of money on that crop. And I understand that it's a heavy strategy game, basically, and that that's part of a heavy strategy game where you can't make mistakes, and that's that's your goal is to play as perfect a game as possible. But I feel like that there's so many little things that can go wrong that you can't account for, that I found that it just wasn't enjoyable to play. It ruined the enjoyment of the game. The fact that the rules were so complex, fiddly, a combination of the rules of the game themselves and the way they are presented in the rule book. I felt like the rule book also was very challenging to get through. It was, we played 2 games with 4 players, and all 4 of us felt after the second game that we spent most of the time talking about rules rather than actually playing the game.
Yeah.
And looking up rules and trying to figure out how it works. And overall, I feel like that really wasn't very enjoyable.
And I would have to mirror those sentiments as well. And I think, too, because if it's supposed to be a heavy strategy game, there's nothing wrong with that. But the rules and the game development needs to commit to that. So because if you have, and it's not bad if you are trying to develop your plot and figure out different ways you want to grow and things like that. If you have your rain cards that show the different growing conditions, the pests, the level of water available, I mean, those are fine. Absolutely. You can work with that. But the thing is, with the long-term strategy game, you want to be able to see your planet to fruition, right? The introduction of these spirit cards throw a lot of that off because your turn order, depending on the bounty or the awesome kind of rewards you get for those cards, it's going to set you back when it comes to your turn order. So you may not be able to realize the benefit of those cards because you may not get the water that may help you grow better or get more rewards per harvest. Also, when it comes to your expansion of your workers and your animals, so you can do more with your fields, it's meant to be a slow progression, a slow investment. Most of the time you think maybe 1 or 2 purchases per round because you now have taxes that not only penalize you for the addition of workers, but the more, or workers or animals, but the more you want to purchase per round, it's not a steady scale tax. It actually grows quite significantly. So it becomes very prohibitive to actually do that. And so when you want to develop a long-term strategy, the introduction of the spirit cards and also the rain cards throw a lot in the way that instead of being a proactive game, it turns now into more of a reactive game. It throws more chance into a strategy game. And so that's where it sort of, it makes you feel like you're subject to the game more than actively guiding the game. And that's where the level of enthusiasm that I was hoping to have or feeling really kind of gets eroded with that. And so that's, for me, it more becomes a game I'm just enduring instead of enjoying. So that's the effect all of this tends to have with each other. So
my feeling is that on the one hand, if you ignore the spirit cards, you have a very interesting and complex strategy game. But when you add the spirit cards in, the game begins to have so much luck elements. Like, some of these cards are so powerful that no matter what you've done and how far ahead or behind you are, you get the right cards and you've won the game, essentially. So I feel like there's essentially 2 games. There's the cards, and then there's everything else. And I think there's a really, good opportunity to improve the game, maybe with an expansion or with a rules update or something to that effect. But I feel like these cards are way overpowered and create, a game that you're mostly playing a luck game because the cards you get will determine what's going to happen. Whereas the rest of the game is very much a strategy game where you're doing a lot of planning and being very careful about what you do. And if you do it all right, you're rewarded, which is cool. Both types of games are interesting, but it seems like they've taken 2 different, completely different gameplays and they've brought them together. And I don't think they play well.
Yeah. So overall, it had a lot of potential. I think it just needs a little more editing and paring down. But you know what? That being said, if any of you have gotten a copy of this game and you had different experiences, I mean, we'd like to hear from you as well. So feel free to leave your comments. Yeah. But other than that, that's our review for this week.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.